Hi, and welcome everyone to Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. Today we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in beautiful New Orleans. Well, hello and good day sorry about that. To everyone, it's always such a blessing to be here with you again. We welcome, of course, and thank the United Public Radio Network, as you just heard, and, of course, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network as well. And you can find them on FM channels, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. I always like to, of course, give credit where credit is due. So, as I said, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always truly a blessing. Tonight is a topic so near and dear to my heart, and I think you're all going to be pretty amazed too. And of course, we're going to be exploring a frontier where the rigid calculations of physics meets the profound mysteries of faith. For centuries, we've been told that science and religion are at odds. And even today, I think it's still much like that. And that one relies on only what we can prove, right? And you can't rely on what you cannot see. But what if the very fabric of our universe is actually screaming a different story? Our guest tonight, Dr. Michael Guillén, which we'll call Dr. G, has spent his life standing at the exact crossroads. He is a world-renowned physicist, an award-winning journalist, and a former instructor at Harvard University. Many of you might recognize him as the longtime science editor for ABC News, where he made the most complex wonders of the world understandable for millions of us. Dr. G once viewed the world through a strictly atheistic mathematical lens. Today, however, he argues that the most rational conclusion one can reach is that we're surrounded by a reality we cannot see. He joins us today to discuss his groundbreaking film, The Invisible is Everywhere, and the scientific journey that led him to believe that God is not just a possibility, but a mathematical and physical necessity. He once viewed the world through a strictly atheistic lens, but today that game has changed. And of course, let me stop jibber-jabbering and introduce Dr. G to the stage.
Hey, Carolyn, thank you for that very generous introduction. I feel like I should run for office now. I mean,
I think you should.
No, I don't want to do that. I'm happy.
No,
I'm
no.
quite happy being a scientist. I don't want to get into politics. No, thank you.
No, I've seen it pollute too many people. So
yeah,
I agree with that. But such a blessing to have you here today.
Well, the blessing is all mine. You know, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Really know that I'm in good hands with you, and you wherever you want to take this conversation, please feel free. I'm really excited about the movie, The Invisible Everywhere.
Yes.
As you said, I've poured my heart and soul into this movie. So I'm just grateful to you for this opportunity to talk to your beautiful viewers about it.
Of course. And of course, everyone can find all the information, Dr. G's books, a link to the screener itself or the movie itself on his website, which is Michael Guillén. And I'm going to spell that for folks that are listening. Yeah. So it's Michael, and then the last name is GUILLEN.com. So please make sure you show the doctor some love and head on over there and check it out. I had the privilege of seeing the movie so that, of course, I could have this conversation with you here today and prep the questions. And I was gobsmacked, and I'm a Christian. So, and I mentioned to you earlier as we were chit-chatting that I think anyone who is an atheist or a staunch agnostic is going to be challenged to their core after they watch this.
Yeah, I agree. You know, in the movie making business, and by the way, I've made another movie in the past. It's called Little Red Wagon. It did very well in the theaters, and then Walmart had it for 90 days. It shot to the top of the bestseller list there.
Wow.
And then it went to Netflix, and now it's on Amazon Prime and Apple TV and Stars, and it's distributed by Lionsgate. So I know how this business works. And what we often say in the movie making business is that if a film is 4 quad, then it means that you've really succeeded. And by 4 quad movie, we mean it appeals to both young and old, male and female. And in this case, with The Invisible Everywhere, this new movie of mine, I think it's also a 4 quad movie, but the quads are different. I say that it's a movie for believers, for seekers, for doubters, and for haters. And what I mean by that is that if you're already a believer in Jesus Christ, if you're already a Christian, if you already believe in God, then I think you're going to find a lot of validation in this movie. You're going to see an enormous amount of scientific validation. Now, you might say, I don't need validation, Dr. G. Well, fine, God bless you, but it's going to be there anyway. If you're a seeker, then you're going to identify with my story, because that's what this movie is all about. It's my story as a young man who went from atheism and had his eyes open to the existence of God by science, no less. And if you're a doubter, then I think you're going to find a lot of your questions answered in this movie. I get a lot of mail from people all over the world who say, Dr. G, you know, I had some doubts. I was wondering about this, or I'm wondering about that. And your book, Believing is Seeing, which inspired this movie, really answered those questions. And finally, if you're an atheist or an agnostic, then you're going to see, number one, that I'm a very serious-minded person. I'm not some flake who believes in some make-believe God, you know, like the Easter Bunny or whatever. This movie is, you know, takes a very rational approach to the subject, and you're going to have a hard time arguing against what I have to say in the movie. So I think I think that there is something for everybody in this movie, and I'm hoping that everybody will give it a chance. I think they'll be very uplifted at the end. And at the very least, and I'll just say this in closing, that I think at the very least, Carol Ann, people will come away having a deeper appreciation for the enormous mystery of the universe that we inhabit, and just as importantly, the deep mystery of the universe that inhabits us. Because the journey I take you on in The Invisible Everywhere is not only to the cosmos beyond us, but to the cosmos within us. And I hope we have a chance to talk about that.
Oh, we sure will. That was so beautifully said, too. I loved how you made the point of saying that your motto changed from seeing is believing to believing is seeing, right? Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I actually look, it's interesting because, you know, I was born in East Los Angeles. You know, it's on the wrong side of the tracks. I was, you know, we were poor, but I never thought of ourselves as poor because my mom and dad took good care of us. But I remember very clearly by the second grade, I was madly in love with science. Second grade. That means I must have been like 7 years old, Carol Ann.
Yeah.
And at that time, I thought to myself, in my little mind, this little peewee kid, I thought to myself, well, I think any self-respecting would-be scientist should live by certain strict mottos. And one of the mottos was, as you said, seeing is believing. If I can't see it, I ain't going to believe it.
Right.
The second motto I lived by was prove it. And if you can't prove it, I ain't going to believe it either. And then my third motto was, I really think that science is powerful enough to answer all my questions. And it really wasn't until many years later, Carol Ann, when I was a grad student at Cornell, where I got my Ph.D. in physics, math, and astronomy, I realized I was wrong, dead wrong, on all 3 counts. And we can talk about that in more depth if you want. But that was my first big awakening.
Also, I think, if I can remember, I think your mom's passing was also another riveting moment for you, right? Where you started to question things. Am I right there?
Yes, because there were three of us kids, 2 girls and 1 boy, me. I'm in the middle, my older sister, my younger sister, and then me in the middle. So my mom really loved me. I mean, she loved all her children, don't get me wrong. But, some people might say I was like a mama's boy
Yeah.
because she just doted on me. And I remember when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she was only like 45. It was devastating. And I'll tell you even a little story behind that in a
Yeah.
minute. But what I want to say to you is, I remember that she was ultimately bedridden. The cancer got into her bones, and she had a difficult time walking. She was confined to a wheelchair, so mostly she stayed in bed. And during those years when she was suffering through breast cancer, she would collect stamps for me. She got to know the local postmaster very well, but even though I was off at school at Cornell, training to be a scientist, she would collect all these stamps and she would send them to me. I mean, she was just the most wonderful mother I can hope for. And I'll just tell you a little side story. I don't know if it's entirely relevant or not, but I think it'll indicate how close I was to my mother.
Sure.
When I left Los Angeles to go to Ithaca, New York to start my grad studies at Cornell, literally like the first day I was there, I got a phone call from my dad, and he broke the news to me that mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mhm.
I mean, I was shocked. And then I found out later on that my mom kind of knew that she had cancer, but she didn't want to say anything to me because she didn't want me to not go to Cornell on account of her. She was really looking out for me. And to this day, I think that's one of the most incredible sacrifices a parent can make for a child, that she would keep a lid on and would not even go to the doctor to confirm her suspicions that she had breast cancer. Now, at first I felt a little guilty. It's like, wow, I mean, mom, I wish you had just gone to the
Yeah.
doctor ahead of time. But anyway, yes. So when she died at age 51, I was smack in the middle of my grad studies at Cornell. And it was a devastating time for me. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing greater than a mother's love. I mean,
Yeah.
I have two children, so I can absolutely relate with that. And I, easily would sacrifice my life. And I think most parents would feel the exact same way. So it's a blessing.
Oh, no, please finish. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say it's a blessing to have a mother like you had. And it's
Yeah.
also a blessing that you recognize that love as well. So
I do. And, she was a traditional housekeeper. I mean, housewife. Most of my family, apart from my dad, none of my family, either immediate or large family, we're kind of a large, loud Hispanic family. And, and none of them went past high school. But I just
yeah,
remember being loved on so much as I was growing up. I mean, we had our family reunions and just
beautiful.
yeah, a totally beautiful experience. And to this day, I miss my mom. I wish she were alive to see this movie that's going to be coming out next Wednesday. But I believe that she's looking down, and
Oh, absolutely, she
she's
is.
proud of her boy. But by the way, I'm also now a father. I have a Gen Z son, and he loves racehorses. He wants to get into the racehorse business as a trainer, or maybe to rehabilitate horses. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'll take a bullet for him, just like you said, Caroline. I mean,
I,
without blinking an eye, I will take a
exactly.
bullet for that boy.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God that there is a
Yes,
lot of parents that feel the way we do.
yes,
And I also loved not only getting back to the movie, that it was so visually compelling. And I know you used a lot of AI, which was brilliant because, let's face it, when you're making a movie, you have to keep that interest,
oh yeah,
keep people interested. So that component was fantastic. But I also love how you incorporated so much science
yeah,
into the movie. And
yeah,
you used science to prove that there has to be a master designer, which was
yes,
brilliant.
yeah.
Like to me, you can't argue with any of that.
Well, good luck if you want to.
You
Yeah,
know,
because it's like it's not. This movie is not about my opinion about anything.
right,
I mean, this movie is about laying out my journey, starting as a young atheist, living by those three strict mottos,
right.
and how as the movie progresses, and the movie's like an hour and 20 minutes long, and you see step by step by step how my beloved science, which I adored, science was my God, how my beloved science just started hitting me with all these revelations. And in the end, it was like, okay, I surrender. I cry uncle. I get it that the scientific evidence clearly points to the existence of God. I mean, you really have to be stubborn, or you have to have some kind of, I think,
Oh,
and I don't want to be too judgmental, but I mean, this is just my opinion, that I think you either have to be very stubborn, or you have to have some kind of personal agenda, or you have to have some major grudge against God, not to at least acknowledge the scientific evidence that points like a big finger to God. And
yes.
I would have thought when I was a kid, you know, being so happy to be a scientist and living by these atheistic mottos, I would have thought just the opposite would have happened, Carolyn. I would have thought that science would have pointed me away from God. So this movie is all about my shock that indeed just the opposite is true. And so here I am, living, breathing proof that, yeah, I'm a scientist, but I'm also a Christian now, and the
Yeah.
Bible
And
and Jesus
you
is.
have such an amazing, impressive background. And the movie, which is nice, the first 10, 15 minutes kind of walks you down that road. And for a reason,
Yeah.
it's all guided for an absolute reason. Do you mind if I show the trailer to folks, and to folks that are listening? Of course, they can hear it. Would you mind if I showed the trailer right now?
Go
Awesome.
for it. I want to watch it.
No, I know. It's so amazing. All right.
I used to think it was childish to believe in a God I cannot see. I have a Ph.D. in physics, math, and astronomy from Cornell. I taught physics at Harvard. And I was the Emmy Award-winning science editor at ABC News. My motto? Seeing is believing. But then I began asking some deep questions, and the answers rocked my scientific worldview to its core. The most shocking thing I discovered is this. Modern science now believes that most of reality is not visible, not logical, and not even imaginable. This unexpected revelation shattered my atheism and turned my lifelong motto on its head. From seeing is believing to believing is seeing.
If I still lived by the motto, seeing is believing, I'd be blind to most of what's real.
Join me on an unforgettable journey that'll open your eyes to realities you've never seen before.
It's a journey that changed my life forever.
So April 8th, that was really, I'm telling you, folks, honestly, it's like it gives you chills. It really does. It gives you chills to watch that. It does.
And Carolyn, just watching it, and I get chills as well. And I mean, I made the thing. I worked long hours. I mean, 12+ hour days, and God bless my wife, Laurel, would just come in and, feed me to keep me going. And, I'm not 20 something anymore. And there were times, it took me an entire year working that long. And there were times that I wondered if I could do it. I mean, it was just grueling. But when I see the outcome, when I see the final product, I too am deeply affected by it. It's a journey that I could never have imagined as a little kid growing up in East LA. I would have never imagined that my life would take this turn, that I would be talking to you right now about this movie. I mean, it's almost like a dream. And I know my blessed mother I would have her on the front row watching this movie with me if she were alive. But
Absolutely.
She's got a front row seat. She's got a better seat than I do, I believe.
She's got the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Heidi, it is goosebumpy for sure. She also said she's been saying you have to believe to see all the magic around you. And it is magic. People are caught up in the verbiage of things too often. Like miracles are magic. They truly are. The miracles that Jesus performed, if you want to call it paranormal, I don't really care. I don't get caught up in that. Sure. But it truly is a miraculous thing, especially when you're guided to make a movie like this. And I want to remind folks that I think, if I could speak for you for a second, your main objective was to spread the word of your faith and belief. Am I right? It's not for fame, fortune, or any of the above. Right?
No, I could imagine. I can think of a million different ways I can make a whole lot more money, and in a much easier way. No, it's how do I even begin to answer your incredibly beautiful question? There's an old saying that converts sing loudest in church, or the converted sing loudest in church. Yeah. I was an atheist. I remember when I was a young man at Cornell, a young woman who I ended up marrying, my wife, Laurel, now for 34 years. But at that time, we were both young, in our 20s. She was even younger than I. She was a sorority girl at Kappa Kappa Gamma. I was this like Phantom of the Opera that, lived in my basement lab at Cornell, at the Lab of Nuclear Studies, working 21 hours a day in a windowless basement lab. So I didn't know if it was day or night. I didn't care. I had no social life. I didn't want a social life. Hey, I was living my dream, the dream that dates back to the second grade. So I just think to myself, Laurel did something, and I talk about it in my book. I don't talk so much about it in the movie, but really it happened on Valentine's Day, and she gave me a Valentine's Day card out of nowhere. I didn't even know it was Valentine's Day. And one thing led to another, and she was a lapsed Catholic. And at that point, I was already on my kind of spiritual journey, because I was asking deep questions that science was not able to answer, which kind of demolished that third motto that science had all the answers. Well, I discovered when I was in grad school, it doesn't. In fact, the more science explores the universe, the more questions it actually raises. They pop up like, rabbits. So anyway, at one point she says, well, you're telling me that you've explored all these religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, transcendental meditation. And she says, have you ever read the Bible? And I said to her, no, not really. I said, because, growing up in Los Angeles, I heard all about the Bible, and it just seems too familiar to me to be of interest. Sometimes we just don't take things seriously that are that familiar to us, right? It's almost like Jesus saying that a prophet has no honor in his hometown because they're too familiar with you, and so they can't believe that you're the Messiah, right? So in my case, it was like the Bible was so familiar to me growing up in LA that I didn't feel it had anything to teach me. I was wrong, obviously, because I had never read the Bible. I was just being stupid. And then I said, the second thing is, I have the impression that people who read the Bible, Christians, they hate science. And that's my number one love in life. So why would I want to read a book that people who read it and believe it hate the one thing that I love more than anything in the world? And then she said something to me that really, Carol Ann, I mean, in retrospect, it changed my life. And she said, well, I haven't read the Bible either, but if you read it, I'll read it with you.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not as stupid as I look. I'm like, I was like, I don't care about the Bible really, but if I could spend a little more time with this pretty girl, that's not. I had this ulterior motive, right? So I said, yeah, I'll do it. And it ended up taking us 2 years to read. But for me, yes, growing up, loving science as much as I did, I now, with my eyes opened, because science opened my eyes, science is what shattered my atheism in the end. I really feel like I need to share my journey with other people. And I think that was my motivation for writing the book, Believing is Seen, and which inspired the movie, The Invisible Everywhere. It's just simply to say to people, look, you are my fellow traveler, by which I mean you and I, Carol Ann, and all the people watching this beautiful podcast, we're all fellow travelers. I picture us all on this trail leading off into the distance, and we call this journey life. And we look around us and we say, wow, that's mysterious. I don't understand that. Well, I can't see that. That doesn't make any sense. So we're steeped in this mystery. And how do we make sense out of it all? So I felt like maybe this movie can help people on their journey. I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to convert anybody. Really, I'm not. I am not. That is not my motivation. My only motivation is to say, look what happened to me. Look what happened to me. And look at what science did to me. And you ought to know about this. You ought to see this. You ought to be aware of it. So even after you watch the movie, you go like, nah, not for me. Well, but at least your eyes will be open. And like you said early on, it will give you a lot to think about.
Absolutely.
And even hardcore atheists are going to have a hard time discrediting the science, because the science is rock solid. Right?
No, I do. When it comes out, I'm going to have to go get it because I need to watch it again. Like, for me, it's not something you just watch once and you're done. Like, of course, I'm taking notes because I wanted to make sure I was ready for this conversation. But next time I watch it, I want to just I just want the magic of the movie to sink in.
Good. Yeah, let it just wash over you. The music, the visuals, right? And the message of it all.
It's just so beautiful. Dr. G, I don't, you have to see it. Carrie made a great point. She says in Matthew 13:15, explains that the blindness of hearts blind the eyes and the ears. That is so true too, right?
Oh, it is. And it's interesting to me. No, absolutely. Carrie is absolutely 100% right. That if you close off your heart, and this is what I mean, maybe we should just take a minute to explain to your beautiful viewers what I mean by believing is seen. Because when I say seeing is believing, that's pretty obvious. Everybody gets that. Oh, okay, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. I'm like from Missouri, show me, right? It sounds like a powerful motto, but it's actually kind of silly, because what I learned was 95% of the universe is invisible to us. That's what we've discovered in modern science. 95% of the universe is invisible to us. And then there's a universe even beyond this universe that's 100% invisible to us. So how can you keep living by seeing is believing? So why believing is seen? Carrie, with her verse from Matthew, pretty much says it all. And that is this. Look. And I think this is what hit me as a grad student, as I said, well, if I don't believe in the scientific method, how can I be a scientist? And yet, if you say to me, well, Dr. G, prove to me that the scientific method will lead you to discover truth about the universe. I can't do that. I can't prove the scientific method is a reliable way to find truths about the universe. And yet, I had to have faith in it. And that's when that's when it really hit me, Carol Ann, that this motto of mine, prove it, which was the second motto, right? We've already demolished the seeing is believing. We've already demolished the idea that science has all the answers. It doesn't, because it just multiplies the questions. Every time it answers one question, it raises a million others. But now this second motto that, prove it. And if you can't prove it, I won't believe it. Well, it turns out that there's very little we can prove in life. And in particular, I can't prove to you that the scientific evidence is a reliable or even the most reliable way to acquire truth. It isn't, in fact. And yet, yeah, exactly. And yet, think about it. I'm proposing to, I'm this 20-something, and I'm in school training to be a scientist. Well, how can I train to be a scientist unless I say to myself, I trust, I have faith in the scientific method, right? So you cannot live a healthy life without exercising faith in one way or another. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an atheist. You're still going to have, you still need faith in order to live well. Look, even like you and me talking, I don't know if you're real. I haven't met you in person. Maybe I'm talking to an avatar. I don't know. But I have faith that you're real. You have faith that I'm real, right? So in a million different ways, every single minute of every single day you are on planet Earth, you are living by faith, whether you realize it or not. From the first moment you step out of bed in the morning, you have faith that the floor will support you. You may take that for granted. Well, of course, Dr. G, the floor is solid. It's going to support me. Well, but you don't know that. You can't prove it. Maybe one day you'll get out of bed and boom, you fall through the floor. You don't know. So here's the bottom line about believing is seeing. And please listen carefully, because this is the crux of it all. And this is what Carrie was referring to with Matthew. If you're not willing to believe at least in the possibility that God exists, you will never do the work it takes to find out if it's true or not. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you don't even allow yourself to believe in the possibility that God exists, then you will never do the work it takes to find out if he does or not. I did the work. I started out in life not believing in God, but I'm a curious person, and I asked a lot of questions, and I pursued the answers. And guess what? The answers were not what I expected. The answers were God exists, period. That's what science showed me, that God exists. And it's very difficult to refute that when I have faith in science. Ultimately, I have faith in the Bible, but early on, all I had was faith in science, and faith is what led me from atheism to believing in God. So that's why I say believing is seeing, because in order to see for yourself the truths of the universe, including the existence of God, you have to at least believe in the possibility that he exists. If you already, right off the bat, if your heart, as Matthew, that verse in Matthew says, if your heart is closed off to that possibility, in other words, you wake up in the morning, God does not exist. Don't even talk to me. God does not exist. Well, you've closed your heart. You've closed your mind, right? Yeah. You're going to die never knowing whether God exists or not, because you're not willing to even ask questions and pursue the answers. You've just closed your heart and your mind to it. And so now your eyes are blinded, your ears are blinded, and now you will never know. You will die never knowing whether God exists or not. I did the work. It took me decades. Does that make sense? Am I making sense, Carol Ann?
Not only are you making sense, but it is the most logical way to live your life. What is that theory? Pascal's wager, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, where he said,
Pascal's
Go ahead.
wager said, look, you have a choice to make. Either God exists or he doesn't exist.
right?
If you believe he doesn't exist and you die and you find out he does, you're in big trouble.
Exactly.
But if you decide that God does exist and you die and he does exist, you're okay. So he said, if you just even want to be pragmatic, I don't like Pascal's wager because it sounds very kind of like you're only going to believe in God because you're trying to hedge your bets, right? I don't
really.
But maybe people are Las Vegas minded and they're like, okay, I'm going to go with the sure bet. I'm going to say, yeah, God, you exist, even though maybe in your heart you don't believe it, but you're saying, yeah, God exists. God, I've got my bets covered, right? I'm betting on red and blue, red and green, or whatever the roulette thing is, right? Or I'm betting on all the numbers.
Maybe if they at least open their mind to the possibility,
that's it.
God will direct them to be able to not only believe it in their brain, but to believe it in their heart. At least it's better than nothing. Maybe it's a way to guide them on the right road, essentially. That's how I like to look at it anyway.
No, I like it. And I like exactly what you just said. And if you think about my journey, I was an atheist as a young man, right? But I had an open mind. I didn't start off in life and say, God doesn't exist. I didn't even think about God. God just wasn't even on my radar. And it was because of that open mind. I just feel like, and tell me if you agree with me on this, Caroline. I just feel like if I'm to be a credible scientist, I have to keep my mind open to all possibilities and let the evidence decide for me. Not to start off in life and just say, no, that's not possible. And so you're never going to do the work it takes to find out whether you're right or wrong. I mean, that's what believing is seen is all about. You have to at least believe in the possibility that something exists or doesn't exist. If you're not even willing to entertain the possibility, you're never going to be open to the evidence that points in one direction or another. It's like saying, I'll give you a perfect example of that. When Galileo invented the telescope, he invited a bunch of church leaders to look through the telescope.
Yeah.
And they refused. They didn't even, I don't want to even look through the telescope. Because why? You're not even willing to do that much to find out what's true and what isn't. So I think that when somebody closes their mind or closes their heart, they blind themselves, just like those church leaders, because they were unwilling to even look through the telescope. They were blind to what the telescope showed them, which was a planet with moons. They never got to see that. How sad is that?
That is sad.
I mean, these are men of the cloth. These are representatives of God. And yet they would close their minds to that. It's also with Gutenberg. When Gutenberg came out with movable type, put a lot of scribes out of business. So a lot of church leaders, were angry about that. And even though Gutenberg printed a beautiful Bible using movable type, that was really his first great product using movable type. There were some people who wouldn't even touch the Bible. That's somebody who closes their mind, closes their heart. And so when they do that, they blind themselves. And my movie is all about like, hey, when you sit down to watch the movie, get the popcorn, get the goobers. But I need you to watch the movie with an open mind. If you watch this movie with a closed mind, don't even bother. Don't, because you're not going to learn anything. You see, you enjoyed the movie. You loved the movie because you watched the movie with an open mind. You took the journey with me and you said, okay, I'm strapped in. I'm ready for this journey. Where are we going? We start with atheism and a belief in science, a love of science. Where does that take me? Well, you see where it took me. I don't want to give away the ending of the movie, but you see where it took me. It was something beautiful. It was something extraordinary, mind-blowing, right?
Absolutely. I think cognitive dissonance keeps people so trapped in the identity of what it is that they're so afraid of losing that, because that's who they are. they don't only just not believe, but that's who they actually are. And I think anything that challenges that is the problem. Like with the priests that wouldn't look through the telescope, because that shook to their core, to their foundation, who they are, as not only their beliefs, but the actual fabric of what makes them who they are. And that's the sad part. That's really, and that's why I love your movie, because it doesn't force any belief on you. It just says, much like the scientist that you are would say, here's the evidence.
Yeah.
Do what you have to do with it. Like, you make sense of it or don't. It's here it is. And you can't help but be compelled by it. I think.
Absolutely. No. What's that?
And I'm a believer, and I felt that way. Yeah.
Yeah. It is true that all of us, and I include myself in this, that we all like affirmation. We all like to find out that what I've believed all along is true. But again, look at my journey from atheism. If I had started off as a second grader in love with science and had completely closed off the possibility that God exists, I would never become the man that I am right now talking to you. I would have still been an atheist, because I wouldn't have wanted the cognitive dissonance. I would have ignored the scientific evidence that was screaming to me, God exists. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart, for goodness sakes. Why are you closing off your mind and your heart? Why are you blinding yourself? God exists. Your beloved science, the thing you love the most, your personal God, science, is telling you God exists. Why are you resisting it? And because I didn't resist, because I've always been a person, honestly, Carol Ann, who asks tough questions and demands honest answers. Whatever the answers are, whether they affirm what I've always believed, or if they demolish what I've always believed, which is what happened in this case, I'm going to follow the truth. And the truth of it is that science points to God, not away from God. It points so clearly to God, I picture it like a big finger, like a cloud formation that suddenly just takes the shape of a big finger and say, God is there. You know what I'm saying to you? And for me, that was just that, as you saw in the movie, I mean, it just blew me away. You use the word gobsmacked. Well, that's how I felt when I was, as a young man, as a young atheist, it was encountering this evidence. Part of me wanted to say, no, that can't possibly be. No, that can't be. But at the end, I couldn't resist. I mean, I couldn't ignore the evidence that pointed to the existence of God. I'll have atheists come on my social media platforms, and they'll call me a liar. They'll call me they'll call me all kinds of names, and they're like, well, who are you? And they don't even bother to do like the simplest research. They just think that I'm somebody who fell off the turnip truck, if they don't know anything about me. I mean, the people who know me and who followed me over the years on TV and all that, they know they can rely on me. One thing is, I'm real old school that way, Carol Ann. Like, even as a reporter at ABC News, I've always felt like I always felt like my viewers' attention was sacred, that I could not betray my viewers' trust, and that I wanted to respect their time. So if I was like doing a segment on Good Morning America, let's say it was 5 minutes long, I would tell my producers, I want at least 3 things that people probably do not know in that 5 minutes. In other words, I want them to stop shaving or brushing their teeth or combing their hair in the morning, watching me. And I want them to say, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't know that. Because I felt like they were investing 5 minutes of their life to listen to me, to watch me. And I wanted them to feel like, you understand what I'm saying? That I wanted them to feel like, okay, that was not time wasted. And I feel the same way about this movie. I mean, people are going to invest 80 minutes of their lives, an hour and 20 minutes. I wanted to make sure that every scene in the movie would say something to you that you probably have never heard before or seen before, so that by the end of the movie, you're just like, what did I just see? What? Kind of like your reaction, right? Because I
Oh, yeah.
respect people's time and I respect their intelligence. I don't talk down to people. Like I said, most of my family didn't go past high school, but they were not stupid people. They were
Right. Sure.
hardworking, blue collar people who probably had more common sense in their little finger than the professors I taught with at Harvard.
Sure that,
You know?
I'm sure. Two things about the movie too. Number one, and I think it's important to cover this, it's not preachy. It's not like, you see a guy on a corner with a sign, Jesus is Lord. It's nothing like that. Nothing. So I think it's important for people to know that, because sometimes, again, they have that disbelief going right into the thing. Oh, I don't want to be preached to. I have friends like that. They're like, don't preach to me. Just don't. This is zero preachy, zero, negative zero. Okay.
Yeah.
That's number one. And number two, if you're lazy in the sense that you don't want to research things, because you're going to hear things that you're not going to understand. You're going to hear theories about different scientists, how you incorporated them into the movie and why. I had to take notes. I had to look things up, and I loved doing that.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal learning experience. I mean, you can watch it and just not do that, of course, but if you're the type of person that's very inquisitive and want to know, hey, what do you mean? What do you mean by spiritual intelligence? What does that mean? What does SQ mean? I like to look stuff up like that. So I want to know more about dark matter. I want to know more about these things. So if you want to watch it and just be amazed and in awe, perfect. But it's also perfect for the person that really wants to dig their heels in and start learning. So I just had to throw that out.
Well, I'm glad you did. And I can't improve on what you just said, Carolyn, except to say amen. I mean, I think that you're right. I often think that, again, more than anything, and I've felt this way all my life. I'm old school. I was brought up well. I was brought up to respect everybody. I never talk down to my audience, never. I don't want to insult them. And that's why this movie, will challenge you. You will hear and see things that you've never heard or seen before. And you may have to watch the movie twice, 3 times, 4 times. Well, fantastic. It's a journey. It's a journey into the unknown. What do you expect? What do you want me to tell you for 80 minutes, everything you already know? That would be kind of boring. That would be a waste of your time. I'm taking you on a journey into the great invisible unknown. And so, you better get ready and be prepared to be gobsmacked. But here's the thing. I always picture, I have this picture. Well, 2 things I want to say. When I first started out on TV, it's not easy talking to a camera. And what I did was I put a picture of my dad, who was a journeyman carpenter, worked hard, came home smelling like sawdust every day. And I put it right below the camera. So I was thinking I was talking to my dad.
Oh, how nice.
Right. Who was a journeyman carpenter. He was not a stupid man. As I said, he had more common sense, more intelligence in his little finger than most people with, multiple degrees. So I just wanted to say, Dad, I'm talking to you. Even though I was talking to an audience of millions all over the world, I was talking to my dad. And now with this movie, the way I picture it is kind of similar to that. And honestly, when I was making the movie, I had pictures on my wall of grandmothers with their grandchildren. I had pictures of my mom and my dad. I had pictures of just ordinary people, beautiful, ordinary. I even hate to use the word ordinary because it sounds so, but you know what I'm saying, just regular people. Because I wanted to remind myself as I was making this movie, not to talk down to them, not to spare them some of the profound truths of the universe, because somehow they can't, they're not smart enough to understand that. I didn't want that. And so now that the movie is made, I picture like this theater, and in the seats of the theater, there's a grandma, there's a grandpa, there's an uncle, there's a mom, there's a dad, there's a theoretical physicist, there's an astronomer, there's a cosmologist, and they're all in the theater together. And they are understanding the movie in a different, each one in their own different way. They're processing the movie. And like you said, Carol Ann, so beautifully, is that, yeah, if you're feeling lazy and you don't want to be challenged, or you don't want to hear about the great truths of the universe that point to God, then just sit there and be dazzled by the pictures and the music. The music is beautiful and the pictures are back. So just sit back, eat your popcorn, and just enjoy the pictures. Right? Yeah. And then when you're feeling a little bit more up to it, then you can go back and see it a second time and take notes. But I have a feeling that this is going to be a movie that people are going to want to watch more than once. Yeah.
Oh, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
You really do. You talk about the invisible a lot, and I love that. One of the questions that kind of puzzled me a little bit is you state, and we know this from science. I mean, I love science. I'm not a scientist, but I do love it and respect it, that our bodies are made up of these subatomic particles, right? And these particles, they're invisible to us, and you call them translogical, right? And you said they behave in ways that are not logical but supernatural.
Yeah.
Can you expound?
Oh, yeah. Because see, when I went into Cornell, I had the intention of becoming what's called an experimental high energy physicist, which is I was proposing to have a career where I would do experiments to study subatomic particles, which are the things that stuff is made of. It's the tiniest things that stuff are made of. So I know a lot about subatomic particles. And so one of the things I learned, and again, this was rather eye-opening to me, is that these experiments that I was doing to study subatomic particles, we never really actually saw the particles themselves. All we really saw were the contrails, or the trails that are left behind in our detectors, but we never saw the particles themselves. They're just way too small for even our most powerful microscopes to ever see. Now, we can vaguely make out an atom, a large atom, using an electron microscope. But beyond that, we cannot see the constituents or the particles that make up that atom, and probably never will for a variety of technical reasons I won't get into. So right off the bat, I had to, again, exercise faith that what I was studying actually existed, even though I could never see them. I only could see their effect on the environment. Pretty much the way God is. God, we don't see God, but we see his effect on the environment. We see God's effect on our lives, on the environment around us, on the people we love, the people we don't love. So right off the bat, as a young man, young 20-something, I had to get used to the idea of believing in something that I cannot see. That was bad enough. That was shocking enough for me. But then on top of that, as I got to know these subatomic particles better, I realized they don't behave in a logical way. They aren't like marbles or dice or dominoes. Subatomic particles really are not of this world. They behave in ways that are not. They're not. They're just not. There's no other way to put it. I don't know what other words I can use, but they are not of this world. Why do I say that, Dr. G? I'll tell you why I say it. And you know, because you watched the movie, right? It's that, let me give you an example of what a subatomic particle is able to do. I'll give you two or three quick examples. And then you'll understand why I call them translogical. I coined the term translogical.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
No, I coined it. It's something that I created. And it's simply a word used to... I'm going to just switch my legs around a little bit here because I'm getting a cramp. It's a word that I coined, translogical, to explain things like subatomic particles that are just not logical. They don't behave like logical things like what you expect in the real world. So, for example, if I said to you, Carol Ann, I can be in more than one place at the same time, Carol Ann, what would you say to me? You're crazy, Dr. G. Nobody can be in more than one place at the same time. What if I even said to you, I can be everywhere at the same time? You'd say, now, Dr. G, you've really flipped out now. Get away from me. I don't want to catch whatever you have, right? But yet, that's exactly what subatomic particles are able to do. A subatomic, like a proton or an electron, they're able to be in, well, not just more than one place at the same time. They can be everywhere at the same time. Okay, that's for starters. Then there's another one. And we call that, by the way, a quantum, well, I don't know if I want to get into the technical terms because I don't want to scare people, okay? But it's for those of you who are daring, I'll say it's called quantum superposition. Quantum superposition.
We talked about that on this channel.
I do, but don't be tripped up by it. I don't want to scare people away. Right. Oh my God, he's using big words. No, it's quantum superposition. But all you need to know is that subatomic particles, like a proton or an electron, can be in more than one place at the same time. In fact, they can be everywhere at the same time. Here's another one. A subatomic particle can actually penetrate through a solid barrier. They can just go right through a barrier. And it kind of reminds me when Jesus, remember after Jesus was crucified and the disciples were in a locked room and they were afraid of what would happen next. Jesus has just been crucified. And then he was resurrected and he walked right into the room, even though the room was locked. Well, that's what we call quantum tunneling. And that's something that subatomic particles can do. They can go through solid barriers. Let me give you a third one.
Yeah.
If you have two subatomic particles, like say two electrons that are very far apart, maybe they're on opposite sides of the universe, right? They can communicate with each other simultaneously as though they are telepathic. And we call that quantum entanglement. So that's why I coined the term translogical, because when you look at the things that are, and our bodies are made of these things. I'm not talking about something that is somewhere else out. No, you, me, Carol Ann, and everybody who's watching this beautiful podcast, your body, look at your body right now. Look at your hand. Your hand is made of these weird particles that are not of this world. In other words, you are a creature that is not of this world. You are made of things that are not of this world, that behave in translogical ways that boggle the mind. Yeah, and when I learned that as a grad student, that for me was, again, that got me thinking. I'm thinking, wow, okay, so number one, the universe is mostly invisible, so forget seeing is believing. Second of all, the universe is made of stuff that is not of this world. So the universe really fundamentally is supernatural. There's just no other way to put it. The very smallest things of the universe, the essence of the universe, the things that the universe is made of are supernatural. They don't obey the common laws of physics. Correct. They are translogical. So that, again, was part of my journey, which I document in the movie, but it's only part of it.
That whole segment was just beautifully done. Beautifully done. Heidi, I agree. She's driving and listening, so be careful out there, Heidi. She said, we are made of magical, mystical stardust. And that, I think, is so true, right, Dr. G? I mean, aren't we made of stardust? Carl Sagan, I think, said that originally, didn't he?
Yeah.
You were friends with him.
Yeah, and Carl was one of my professors at Cornell, and he said, we're made of stardust. And, that's a very poetic way of saying that we're made of heavy elements. But more to the point, we are made of stuff that is not of this world. End of sentence. Period.
Yeah.
Forget stardust, forget mystical, forget magical. We are made of stuff that is not of this world. Where did that come from? I wonder where did that come from? Could it maybe be from a God who is not of this world? I mean, that's why my journey, right? That's why my journey in the movie is like from atheism and science, just gradually, little by little, like drip, 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 like the Chinese torture, right? Drip, 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 just started eating into my atheism. It just started unraveling my atheism, shattering my atheism. I couldn't ignore this stuff, Carol Ann. How can I ignore that? How can I ignore the fact that you and I are made of stuff that's not of this world? The entire universe is made of stuff that is not of this world. Where does that come from? Where does that come from?
It's not a Goldilocks zone happy accident either that they would have us believe. I wanted to kind of talk about CERN a little bit with you because this is just me. I never got the best feeling about what they were doing over there, especially knowing that they were looking for the God particle, as they so eloquently put it.
Right.
And it's like, why? See, again, science intervening that they have to have proof that God is out there. You know, they have to smash atoms in this collider, and God knows what accidents they can cause too. I mean, scientifically, right? We don't know. What's your whole take on what they're doing over there in CERN?
Well, you know, the physicist who coined the term God particle was a friend of mine. He's no longer alive. Leon Letterman. Leon got a Nobel Prize in physics. I actually did a segment on him. I did a segment on him on Good Morning America. He was a funny guy. I liked Leon. I'm not going to speak ill of him. I think that when people like Leon, and I don't think Leon was, I don't think he believed in God, but I think that, how do I want to say this? I want to choose my words carefully, but I think what's happening in the scientific community, and Leon's, you know, labeling this this particle the God particle, I think is an indication of that, is that I don't think you can be a scientist, an honest scientist, and not sense the presence of God. I think that Einstein certainly felt that. And you know, Einstein was not an atheist, and he, in many times, in different ways, he expressed what I'm saying to you, that he sensed the presence of God in the universe. That's Albert Einstein. And I think it's because, man, when you devote your life to studying the universe, as I have, it's hard to believe that it's all an accident. It's just really nearly, I'll never say it's impossible, and because I'm a scientist, but it's like nearly impossible. I mean, it takes a lot of faith to believe that the universe is an accident. Much more faith than it takes to see that the universe was intentionally created for life, for us. And I think, because I was being interviewed the other day by a major newspaper, like an international, like the biggest newspaper in the world. And the young lady who was interviewing me asked me about this. And I said, I think that what's happening with science, and modern science in particular, is becoming more religious-like. And by that, I mean this, that, when Newton was around, 300-400 years ago, they talked about, just solid stuff that you could, clocks and gears and ramps and, just ordinary solid stuff. But then modern physics happened starting, in the 1900s. And throughout the entire 20th century, the thing that science has discovered is that the universe is mostly not visible, mostly not logical, and mostly not imaginable. It is truly supernatural. And so I think modern science is becoming more religious-like. It's asking you to believe in dark matter, even though we don't know what it is. It's asking you to believe in dark energy, even though we have no clue what that is. It's asking you to believe in a quantum vacuum. We have no idea what that is. In virtual particles, things that are real but not real. They have no idea. In subatomic particles, the way I just described to you, that are not of this world. So I think what's happening is that rather than science and God diverging, what's happening is God is here. He's a fixed target. God doesn't change. He's never changed. He never will change. Science is like this river, and it's kind of meandering around and meandering around. And a lot of people might have guessed that science would meander away from God, right? Leave God behind. No, what's happening is that modern science is actually meandering, guess what? Right towards God. And I think that's why a lot of these scientists like Leon will use religious language to describe what we're discovering in physics. So to answer your question about CERN, I don't have an objection to what's going on at CERN, because they are doing what I had originally trained to do, which is just smash things to see what stuff is made of. And the reason I don't object to that is because of all those experiments, we now realize we're made of stuff that is not of this world. If we had not, right, Carol Ann? If we had not done those, if we had not smashed things, who's that comedian who like throws pumpkins off the top of a building or something? He just to watch it go splat. Well,
he passed away.
He did pass away.
Gallagher.
Yeah, that's kind of how physicists are, like Leon Letterman. We use atom smashers like CERN,
right,
with Stanford Linear Accelerator and all the other, just to smash stuff to see what it's made, to see what it's made of. But lo and behold, what stuff is made of is supernatural, and I think that has shocked modern science, and that's what's caused modern science to become more religious-like, not less religious-like. Pretty profound.
It really is. As a matter of fact, somebody, I think Hillbilly Herb just made a statement about how science and religion are finally, gosh, if you could repost that, that would be great, Billy. How it seems like now science and religion, or the belief of God, they're coming like closer together.
Well, very
much. Instead of moving further apart. I truly believe as well.
And I think that's I hope that comes across in the movie, Carol Ann. I mean that
absolutely.
Yeah, that the more science digs and digs and digs into the mystery of the universe, you would think that maybe it would demystify the universe, right? Sometimes, like I'm an amateur magician, okay? So when I do a trick, especially in front of kids, there's Hillbilly. He's saying,
a funny thing about scientists, those who get their impetus tend to believe in God. Very true.
Well, look at me. I'm a perfect example, right? Here I am, Hillbilly. Here I am. That's me. But I'll often do a trick, especially in front of the kids, and I'll say, Dr. G, how did you do that? How'd you do that? And I'll say to them, number one, a magician can't reveal his tricks, but even if I told you, I think you would not. It would demystify the magic. It would make you go like, oh, is that how you did it? There would be a big, And I think that a lot of people centuries ago believed that the more science dug into the universe, the more science probed the universe, either smashing things or magnifying things or looking through telescopes or whatever, that we would do that. We would demystify the universe, and we'd go like, oh, is that all the universe is about? Oh, gee, I thought the universe was magical. Oh, gee, I thought the universe was fantastic. Oh, is that really all there is? It's like,
oh my
you get this beautiful bunny rabbit wrapped in gold foil, and you're like, woo! And then you open the foil and you eat and it's hollow, and it's like, really, is that all? Well, but just the opposite is happening, and that's what happened. That the more we probe the universe, Carol Ann, it's actually not demystifying. We're actually amplifying the mystery of the universe. That is what's so crazy.
Like more and more questions, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you talk about in this movie that we're not going to have enough time to get to today. We still are good. We have like a half hour left. But one of the things that blew me away is you talk about SQ, which is spiritual intelligence.
Right.
And you said it drives us to rise above, to risk all, because our spiritual senses we're getting pulled from beyond. And I love that because it is so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It
true.
is. Yeah, it is. I'm glad you brought this up. It's actually one of my favorite topics. When I went to Harvard to teach physics, there was a psychologist there named Howard Gardner, and he came out with his theory of multiple intelligences. Basically, his theory was, look, we talk about IQ being a measure of intelligence, and it is. It's a measure of a certain kind of intelligence. It measures your ability to, understand spatial relations. It measures your ability to reason logically and so forth, and do some simple mathematics. So that's a legitimate form of intelligence, but a lot of people make the mistake of saying that's the only kind of intelligence there is.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's a lie. And so Howard Gardner came up with this theory of multiple intelligence, where he called our attention to the fact that, hey, look at an Olympic athlete. That takes incredible body intelligence. That takes, kinesthetic intelligence, that knowing where your arms are, your head are. Somebody who does a tumble has to know, like, I could never do that. I mean, my athletic intelligence is pretty close to zero. But I often say that in high school and all through school, actually, they would fight over me when they were picking teams. And they would say, no, you take him. No, you take him. No, you take him. I was always the last kid picked. I was the skinny little geek, right? But anyway, so I thought, wow, yeah, I buy into that. I think Howard is onto something there. There are musical intelligence. There's a linguistic intelligence and stuff. But then I looked at his list of like 8 or so intelligences. I said, well, wait a minute. Where is an intelligence that recognizes that we are spiritual creatures? We're not just physical creatures. We're spiritual creatures. Because by then, I was far enough along in my journey from atheism to believing in God that I recognized that science had a great deal of evidence pointing to the fact that we're not just physical creatures, we're non-physical creatures, we're spiritual creatures. And so I thought to myself, well, why did Howard leave that out? And so I sat down, and it took me about 2 years to develop the concept of spiritual intelligence. I'm the one who came up with it, SQ. And basically, you summarized it perfectly, Carol Ann. SQ, I call it you can say it's either a sixth sense or it's a hypercognitive ability. That is to say, it's an ability above and beyond our 5 physical senses. It's an awareness that we have. And it's not a perfect awareness, but we have this kind of imperfect awareness that there is something more to reality than meets the eye. And that that awareness draws us to that unseen reality. There is a pull that unseen reality influences, exercises on us. And so I took I took that concept one step further. I said, okay, well, that explains why we go into space. Later today, for example, hopefully Artemis 2 is going to take off to go to the moon. Well, why? Why do we spend billions of dollars to put 4 astronauts in harm's way? I mean, they're sitting on top of this, powder keg.
Yeah.
What? Just to go around the moon and come back? What's that all about? Because if you listen to evolutionary biologists, they will tell you that life is all about survival. Whatever you do, whatever decision you make, whatever you think, whatever you do is meant to increase your chances of survival. Well, I've got news for you. Getting on top of a rocket doesn't do anything to increase your chances of survival. Just the opposite. You have to ask the question, why? Why do we do this? We're the only species who does this kind of a thing. I remember when I went down to the Titanic and I almost lost my life, and I tell that story in the movie.
My folks, you have to go and look. I don't know if we'll have time to show that because it was a lengthy segment, but what you went through, could you kind of briefly give the folks an overview
Well,
of what happened?
I went down. I was invited to be the first correspondent. I was still at ABC News. I was invited to be the first correspondent to go down to the Titanic to report from the Titanic. And while we were down there, 2.5 miles below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, our little sub got stuck. Wouldn't you know it? My luck. It got stuck in a part of the Titanic. I don't want to give
And this
away
is
the
all
whole
being
story.
recorded. This is all being recorded
Oh,
on video. So
oh, yeah.
folks can go watch that.
Yeah, and I take excerpts of it in my movie, The Invisible Everywhere, so you know. But the point I'm making here is that why do we do that? Why, just a couple of years ago, what was it? 5 people went down in a sub to just kind of
Tragic.
gawk at the Titanic, and they lost their lives. They were squished. It was horrible, horrible. And I was on TV all over the world talking about it because of my own experience with that. And so many reporters would say, well, Dr. G, why would we do that? Why would somebody lock themselves into a little sub? I mean, they were literally welded into this sub, and they went down and they were crushed to death. Why would we do that? And it all comes back to this concept of spiritual intelligence. It's that we have this awareness of something that is beyond what we can see, beyond what we can understand, beyond what we can even imagine. And it's almost like Jack London's The Call of the Wild.
Yeah.
We feel called to explore it. We feel called, whether it's to go into space, whether it's to climb a mountain, whether it's to go down to the bottom of the ocean. We feel called to explore the unknown. And that is uniquely human. And that is because we alone have this thing called spiritual intelligence. God is calling us to the unknown, and he is the ultimate unknown. We are being called to him. He is the ultimate unknown, but we're also in the process of being called to him, the great unknown. We're also called to these other lesser unknowns. It's just wired into our DNA. This SQ is literally baked into our DNA. And I wrote a whole book called Can a Smart Person Believe in God, where I introduced the concept of SQ. I talk about it in the movie. Again, I don't want to give it away too much, but yeah, that's a powerful concept. So every time you feel called to say pray, or every time you feel called to wonder, even just to wonder, does God exist? That just even that act of wondering. Never mind getting on your knees and believing and surrendering. Just the very act of wondering, does God exist? Do you think Bambi in the forest stops in the middle of his day and says, I wonder if God exists? No, this is uniquely human. We are not just Darwinian creatures worried about eating, sleeping, and procreating. We are creatures who do math, who do art, who do music, who explore the heavens, who explore the oceans, who explore the great spiritual world. That's what religions are. The religions are an expression of our SQ. All the world's religions are an expression of a species that senses something is out there we can't see, we can't understand, and that we cannot even imagine.
How about, Dr. G, just the mere fact that we have such an ability to love that it surpasses any other emotion. We sacrifice our lives, as we said before, for our children. We do so many beautiful, loving, giving things, and it has to be a God-given innate ability that we have. It has to be. But differently, right? Animals love, but differently. Like it's not the same love that humans have.
I agree with you. You see love, especially in dogs. And, we have 2 dogs here, and, they're just such loving creatures. But you're right. Humans take it to a higher level. Laurel and I were watching the other day a YouTube video of 3 brothers. Apparently they're well known on YouTube. They're out of Canada, and they're construction workers. And what they do is they pick people who are in need, and they do things for them for free. So the video we were watching the other day was these 3 brothers found these 2 Mennonite ladies, old ladies. They were like in their 80s, and their roof was in terrible disrepair. It was leaking on them, and these were very hardworking ladies and so forth. So they literally rebuilt the roof. They painted the house.
Yeah.
And they cleared away the brush. And you're thinking, well, what does that have to do with being a Darwinian creature? What does that have to do with surviving, with eating, sleeping, and procreating? What does that have to do with that? It doesn't. There's an altruism there that science alone cannot explain. And I think the source of it is God. You're right. Every river in the world has a source. And I think the source of love is God himself. The Bible tells us God is love, right? God is love.
I've heard some scientists say that the only reason humans like to be altruistic is for the ego, because it satisfies. I don't believe that at all.
Do you buy that? I mean, yes, I've heard that. I've heard other explanations too, that it's good for the community, it's good for the tribe, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? let's just be real for a moment. I mean, I see scientists, my beautiful fellow scientists, just twisting themselves into knots, trying to explain things like this, that, yeah, there it is. God is love. And it's clearly, says it in the Bible. And I think that's part of what my journey was about. When I started asking these deep questions, like, where did the universe come from? Where does love come from? Is there life after death? Are we just another animal? And so forth.
And you go through all of that in your movie.
Yeah, all of that and much more. And I kept getting these answers from my beautiful, beloved science. And I'm like, good try, but that,
cigar.
It's close, but no cigar, and God bless them. They try their best to kind of twist themselves into knots, even trying to, even the Big Bang Theory, it's full of holes. It's got a huge number of problems. I'll tell you something, getting back to this love thing. Yeah. It's hard for science to explain the love that we express to perfect strangers. We were moving from one city to another, and there were, like 3 or 4 young men helping us to move our stuff. And I don't know how we got on the conversation about God, but we did. We were talking, and they knew I was a Christian, and they knew about me and so forth. And they were there questioning me and so forth. And they seemed skeptical, and that's okay. So that at the end of it all, I mean, and they went above and beyond. They did such a wonderful job. I mean, they really did go above and beyond what normal movers would do. If you will, they showed a great deal of love for what they were doing for Laurel and me, and I really appreciated them. So I gave them a nice tip at the end. But when I gave them the tip, I said this to them. I said, you were wondering how I know God exists when you can't see him. I said, but you have to understand, I'm seeing him right now in your faces. And in all the things that you've done for us to move from one city to another, that's God. That's God that's motivating you to do what you just did for Laurel and me. And they were just like, they got it. And I think that's right. Yeah. And love is just one of the many ways I think that God reveals himself to us in this life. Just like when you take dark matter, you say, well, Dr. G, how do scientists know that dark matter exists if we can't see it? Good question. It's just like asking, well, how can you know that God exists if you can't see him? Well, in the case of dark matter, we know dark matter exists because when we look at the way in which galaxies are spinning around one another, like a merry-go-round, they're spinning way faster than they should be. And so the question then becomes, well, what's driving the extra spin? Well, it's dark matter. We can't see it, but we know it's there by the influence it has on the galaxies. Well, same with God. I mean, God influences our behavior, your behavior, my behavior, showing love, showing altruism, showing self-sacrifice, showing selflessness. And in the universe, he shows himself in this magnificent universe I have spent my entire life studying, and it's mind-blowing. It's
Oh,
mind blowing. And I think that's actually an advantage I have, Carolyn,
oh, good Lord,
because
it is. You're fortunate enough to have lived in both worlds.
yeah,
I gotta ask you before we go, because it's not fair that I have all these questions left and we are running out of time. Oh my word, would you come back? Like, I
yeah,
know you're squeezed for everybody wants you right now, but I have so many beautiful questions. But I want to ask you this because I'm stuck on this. Maybe you can help me. I'm an ET believer, like
mhm,
I am. And you had in your movie laid out what's called Fermi's, if I'm getting that right, paradox that
mhm,
says it's made in other words, that if ETs are all over the place, why don't we see them everywhere? Right?
right, right.
Help me out with that one because I'm an ET believer.
Yeah. No, and that's okay. Look, it's a subject that interests me a lot. So here again, I know a lot of my scientist colleagues are very close-minded about it. I have to retain an open mind as a scientist. I have done many, 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 many stories about ETs, okay, over the years. On ABC News, I've interviewed people who claim to have seen ETs, to
Mm,
have been abducted. And, these people are not flakes. Many of them are in the military. They're very serious people.
sure.
Some people have tremendous credentials and so forth. So it's hard to, shrug off their testimonies. More than that, as I indicated, I think earlier, Carl Sagan was one of my professors at Cornell. Well,
Right.
Carl and Frank Drake was also a professor of mine at Cornell. They are the founders of SETI. They founded the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So I learned at the feet of the two astronomers who started this whole search for extraterrestrial intelligence. I
That is
took classes on exobiology, which is the study of extraterrestrial life. It was a fascinating curriculum. So I take this subject very, very seriously. My disappointment right now is that despite all my efforts to talk to people, to ask them to show me the goods. Remember the old, there was a hamburger commercial with some lady with cigarette voice and she was, "Where's the beef? Where's
Yes.
the beef?" Remember, "Where's the beef?"
I do remember that.
Well,
Goodness.
I'm like that old lady. Is like, "Where's the beef? Where's the
Right.
evidence?" Believe me, I will be the
That's
first
funny.
one to report uh, uh, reliable evidence that we can see, inspect, and so forth and so on. Right now, I'm just waiting. So I'm not poo-pooing it. I don't disrespect it. I remember one of the segments I did at ABC News was in New Paltz, New York, which has the reputation of being kind of the UFO center of the country.
Yeah.
There are more UFO sightings in New Paltz, New York,
Yeah.
which is,
See,
upstate New York, than anywhere else. And I remember, going with my camera. This is for Good Morning America. I went up there with people who claimed to have seen ETs. My
sure.
cameraman was there, and we literally pulled an all-nighter. I mean, we were standing on a cliff or sitting on our lawn chairs on a cliff overlooking New Paltz. It was beautiful. I
Wow.
mean, it's starlit night. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it was worth it. Believe me, it was fantastic. But nothing showed up. But again, who knows? It could happen tomorrow. I'm open to it, and I had a reporter actually ask me the other day. It was interesting. He was an interesting interviewer. He said to me, "Dr. G," he said, "if ETs were to show up tomorrow, and they would say this, they would say, we're going to allow one person from planet Earth to come back to our home with us. But the only condition is you'll never come back to Earth, but you can broadcast one television show from where we come from." In other
Mm,
words, make a movie in their hometown, wherever it is in the universe. I can beam it back to Earth, but I myself can never come back. So this reporter asked me, he said, "Dr. G, is that something you'd be interested in?" I said, I'm top of the list. Put me on. I'm there. I'll do it. Laurel may not be happy.
no,
My
she
wife
will
may
not.
not be. But you know what? Oh, are you kidding me? What kind of a scientist? what kind of a scientist would I be? I mean, I was willing to go down to report from the Titanic, almost lost my life down there.
Oh my
I'll go across the universe to make a home movie on some ET's home. Absolutely. So right now it's like, to me, it's a TBD, to be determined, to be continued. To me, it's a fascinating subject. I keep an open mind about it.
good.
I've been to Area 51. I've been to New Mexico. I've done it. I've been there. I'm just waiting, Carol Ann, please. Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
Exactly. Well, disclosure is happening. I think we're getting closer to it. We just have to get all the fake stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, now you've got Matt Gaetz coming on saying that we're hybrids with some aliens. I don't know, all that crazy stuff. And I didn't even get a chance to talk to you about like good and evil, the battle between the two.
Yeah.
So would you mind if I got in touch with Laurel to schedule you back? I know you're so busy, but I would love to have you back. I've got so many other questions that we want to know. Where's the beef?
The short answer is I'd be honored, Carol Ann. I also just really want to thank you. When you accept these invitations to be interviewed, Laurel tries to be very selective because we are getting queries from all over the world. And I'm only one person. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So she knows, but I really have to say, I just admire you so much. I just love I love how your mind works. I just think you're like the perfect audience for my movie. Like I said, if you have already decided there's no God, that you don't want to hear, you don't want to look through the telescope, you don't want to know what the telescope reveals about the universe, this movie's not for you. But if you're at all curious, if you have a germ of curiosity in your mind about what changed me from atheism to believing in God, to believing in Jesus, then this movie is for you. Even if you're an atheist, do yourself a favor. Just watch it and challenge yourself. You may come away still saying, nah, not for me. But at least you watched a movie about a scientist, a serious-minded scientist who began life very young in life as an atheist, and whose atheism was shattered by science, not by some preacher, but by science. Then this movie is for you, and I hope you give yourself that chance to watch it. But thank you, Carol Ann. I really enjoyed it. You're a gem, and I mean that sincerely. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, me too, and I can't wait to get you back because there's so much to learn and there's so much to know. And of course, the movie's not going to give us all these answers, but what it will do is spark your curiosity, spark your imagination, and you will feel something inside that I can't quite put into words because it is a very personal, spiritual thing. But when I watched it, and not to be all dramatic and woo-woo, I'm just being honest here and being myself. When I watched it, I felt very connected to God, even more so than I normally do every day. Wow. I felt like a special connection, as if God was like, pat me on the head saying, it's all good. Don't worry. It's all good. That's the message I got. Like just that. Yeah, I got a very spiritual message from it too. Not just the scientific one, not just an intellectual to like quell the answers to my scientific questions. I got that, but it connected me spiritually, and I love that, and I thank you for that. Because I can't wait till it's released so I could watch it. Because there's a limit on the screener that I'm allowed, like 10 days, and poor Laurel had to keep renewing it. So I finished watching it because I kept replaying stuff. But I can't tell you guys enough. I mean, you always hear me saying, I recommend this book, I recommend that book, and I only recommend things that really move me. And you guys have got to see this movie. That's all if you like my podcast, and trust me, you have to see the movie. It's crazy, amazing good.
Well, there's nothing I can say except thank you for that honest testimonial, and it validates all the work I put into this thing. Making this movie took me to the brink. It was grueling, but
Yeah.
it worth it if it blessed you the way you say that it did, and it certainly has blessed me. And honestly, I too cannot wait to see the movie myself. I've made it, but I've been so busy doing media interviews right now. I can't wait to sit down with Laurel and just watch it. Just enjoy it. Not as the person who made it, but just as like another viewer, just to sit there,
Just
right?
as an
And just,
observer. Yeah.
exactly. And I'll say I just finished, because I'm just like Laurel says I work too hard, but that's what I do. I just finished, like, it wasn't enough to make the movie, right? I told Laurel, I said, yeah, but once people see the movie, they're going to want more. And so what I did, I just finished writing a companion guide. So once you watch the movie, then the companion guide will take you even deeper into your personal journey, into what I call the great invisible unknown, because that's really what it is. So I'm really excited. I hope that the Lord grants me more years, because to me, just like you felt something in watching the movie, I felt something in making the movie. I felt God's presence in this room in which I made the movie. I really did. And I'm
When is this guide coming out, Dr. G? This companion guide, is it after the movie?
No, it will come out at the same time, April 8th. So when you go to theinvisibleeverywhere.com, here's the deal. Because I have people following me all over the world, I thought, well, if I release this movie in theaters like I did my last movie, then somebody in Hungary or Thailand or South Africa or Australia, they're going to be left out. And so we're doing something we've never done before. We've created a digital box office. So on April 8th, if you go to theinvisibleeverywhere.com, that's all you got to do. I don't care where you are, who you are, what you believe, what you don't believe. Just type in theinvisibleeverywhere.com. You will see the box office. So you'll be able to rent the movie, buy the movie. There's something called the Founders Edition, which will give you the movie plus a lot of behind the scenes, very interesting behind the scenes stuff. And then there's even a button where you can host a screening. So if you're a church, or if you have a civic group, or you're a company, I'll give you the license to screen the movie. Plus, I'll give you 25 free companion guides to go along with it. If you have a study group or whatever. So that's going to be exciting, because I have so many people overseas saying, Dr. G, we're hearing about this movie. We're excited. We want to see it. Where are we going to see it? Well, I don't want to have to say to them, well, I don't know if we're ever going to get to Hungary or Thailand or China or India. No, theinvisibleeverywhere.com, wherever you are. And if you even go now to theinvisibleeverywhere.com, you will see the trailer that you so graciously showed. But come April 8th on the dot, suddenly you'll be able to see the entire movie. Wherever you want to watch it, on your little cell phone, you can watch it on your computer. You can cast it on your big LED screen in your living room, whatever you want, wherever you are. So I'm really excited about that. So that's it in a nutshell. April 8th.
That's great. I'm glad you told us all that. Yeah. And thank you again so much for today. I can't believe time flew. And we will schedule another one of these, because I have too many good questions left to ask you.
You know what? You remind me of when I was teaching physics at Harvard. I had the privilege of teaching the best and the brightest. I think you would have been one of my best students. I would have loved having you in my class. I mean that sincerely. You've been a joy. You're a gem. Your spirit just comes through everything you say and do. You beautiful smile. So thank you. Talk to Laurel, and let's do it another. Okay. God bless you and all of your viewers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will be in touch soon. God bless.
Bye-bye. God bless you, Caroline.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was just, thank you. Oh, God. You guys are the best in the chat. That's all I have to say. You guys are rocket. The comments, the questions, the jokes. I mean, I'm trying to pay attention, and I'm reading some of your jokes, and I'm like, don't laugh, because I make sure I read all of them. Thank you. You know, I adore all of you. You make it so worth doing. I hope you enjoyed that, and I truly hope you get to watch the show, the documentary. It really was mind-blowing and chilling, and you will be left gobsmacked, as I said. Thank you so much. And don't forget, please, 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 if you can, tune in, because I love having you guys here. Tomorrow, I have a really riveting show. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get this, folks. We're going to be speaking with Tracy Quinlan, and we're going to be talking about astrology and love. And it's called Charting Love with Astrology. And the question we're asking is, are soul contracts hidden in your charts, in your astrological charts? So, like, I am big time on the whole soul contract premise, and I love that topic. So please be sure and tune in tomorrow at 6. Until then, God bless, stay safe, stay well. You guys are the best. And thank you, of course, to United Public Radio Network. Bye-bye, all. See you then.